So, well, sorry. Sometimes I just hop on here and I didn't do any type of grooming yet, so I apologize for the rough look. But we're gonna talk about my tattoo, G thing. Oh, you can't see it. It's okay. It's on my titty anyway. G thing. Um, so this person has been brought up a lot in this channel in a roundabout way. I'm not very specific with this person because I've tried to protect them. They are not included in the worst thing I ever did video, although there's a very similar situation with that person. Um, there's a video that has a thought bubble as the title. That person is included in that video, their voice. The letter to the man of the hour, I stated that um, I began to be fixated on his face because I was trying to get over someone who had his face. It's essentially, the man of the hour looked just like this man, just like an upgraded version. Because the man I'm talking about is like 5'3" and very small. Um, what I realized um, over some time is the way I have to I have to revisit situations to completely close them out. It's not just like walking away and closing it out. Like myself personally, as you've seen me go through over the last couple of years, I revisit and then the realization hits me. Okay. So we're going to talk about G thing. I'm the only person that calls him that. I don't know anybody else that calls him that. Maybe somebody else does call him that, but I don't really know him that well to know if somebody else calls him that. I call him that. But there's a reason behind that. Almost all of my tattoos have multiple meanings behind them. The only one that would have like one meaning behind it is Jeremiah here on my arm. Okay, so all of them have multiple meanings. Me tattooing G thing on me, though it has some connotation to him, it has so much connotation. Okay, one, I consider myself the OG, so I am G thing myself, but he is as well. But then the primary reason why I tatted that on myself is this line right here in this song. Unfadable. So please don't try to fade this. But back to the lecture at hand. Perfection is perfected. So I'ma let them understand from a young G's perspective. And before me dig out a bitch, I have to find a contraceptive. You never know, she could be earning her man and learning her man and at the same time burning her man. That is the primary reason why I got this tattoo. To never forget things I have done. It is on me. So, what I understand here now, years later, is the concept of emotional rape. I keep bringing it up. I keep bringing it up because that is the only type of relationship that I know. But by having, ended this situation with this person, I now see it very clearly as to what it was. And through repeatedly trying to deal with this person, and after the fact of knowing, I've tried to give them this information. I've tried to give them the video. I've tried to give them other ways to start to balance out the energy. Like I've tried everything because this person is honestly more of a catalyst to things than the man of the hour is. Um, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that he's my twin flame or anything, but the trajectory and the journey of like meeting the man of the hour probably would have never happened if I didn't meet G. So I'm about to read this because I always write to my lovers, at least the ones I love. Before, um, when I met when I met him at work. I met him at work in 2015, and I'll state something like that in this writing. But I met him and I had a crush on him. I don't know why, and I do know why. One day he stood really close to me at work. Okay, I worked at FedEx and I did box liners. Box liners, you have to be really strong to work on box liners. Okay, I always say I'm weak because I can't work out with my 5 pounders, but I mean I could pick Aaron up no problem. He's 70 pounds, so I am strong, but I just can't do a cardio workout with my weights on for some reason. Anyways, I'm really strong. So I would get in trouble all the time for not asking for help on some of the bigger boxes. So one day he comes in to kind of like scold me about that. Him and the actual, he was like a trainer, and then there was the supervisor, right? They were cool, and I liked their relationship between each other. But he came in, and when he came in, he like stood extra close to me, and like his energy was insane. You could feel it like radiating off of him. Now, one thing I'm gonna say about all the men in my life, okay, if you go, even if you don't know the date, the time they were born, you can go to their birth charts on that day, and you can see the trajectory of the day is very powerful in terms of natal chart. Okay, so unfortunately, what it appears to be is that all of these people have been corrupted either by the programming or their own personal experiences. Um, but he's someone that I've definitely brought up a lot. I'd probably bring him up just about as much as I bring up the man of the hour. But nonetheless, what I'm saying here is that his natal chart confirms, like, I don't know his specific natal chart, but I know what it looks like for that day. The day is a good day. um, Aaron, or not Aaron's dad, but Jeremiah's dad also very, the they actually can kind of rival with me in rank. I'm still better, but they could rival. Okay, so I could feel his energy, and I was just like, I was smitten, right? But I ended up not being able to complete the job. My car broke down, and so I just lived off of my social security. But when I moved nearby. So that fixation continued. Okay, so I'm about to read this little thing here. It's it's August 19th, 2018 at 8:38. Let's look at that number real quick before we move on. A sign of encouragement and support from your guardian angels. They are letting you know that they are with you, and that you can succeed in whatever you're working on. You have their backing and support. Um, oh, In love, it says, if you are in a relationship, angel number 838 wants to remind you of how important it is to keep your love connection nurtured. Life may be hectic right now, but you mustn't forget to meet the needs of your partner. And that's important too, because this person is, uh, I'm obsessed and I love too hard. This is the same person, but you know, let's read this. I really hate that I have to constantly embarrass myself. Okay, there's this lady. Before we get off, say one more thing. There's this lady. She's been coming up in my algorithm a lot. I like her content. I've actually shared her content, and she says she always has like these videos about why she can't be friends with male-centered women or male-obsessed women, women who are obsessed with being in a relationship. This message is for you. What you'll find is that the women like me, we have been emotionally raped, so it leaves these needs unmet, or like you have you begin to obsess over what it is that, I mean, they're essentially obsession spells. Like women are women are being put under obsession spells. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what I've called it before. It's a love spell. It's a you can go back to the emotional rape videos, emotional rape, and borderline personality disorder, if you would like to know. Anyway, um, I have had a crush on you since 2015, and this sounds so juvenile. I've made hints at that, but I've never just straight up said it. There was one time you stood relatively close to me, and I felt your energy, and from that moment, I wanted to know you, but I am horribly shy. I ran into the supervisor 6 months after I left FedEx, and he offered me a ride. On my way back, he told me that you lived nearby, and he did. He lived directly. I lived on. We lived on opposite ends. So this is a whole complex. I live on this end. He lives on the other end. We're completely directly opposite of each other. So I came off a little bit too friendly, but I was just trying to get to you, realizing that you were more than just work buddies. So after this, I began to see you at C1 all the time. Sometimes we make C1 is a corner store, by the way. Sometimes we make eye contact. Sometimes we do the whole nod thing. Sometimes you never see me at all, but I see you. Sometimes I want to say something, but there's always a ton of people and I'm shy. What if this dude shuts me down in front of all these people, so I never say anything? Until one morning, you are the only person at C1. And I ask you if you knew where to get weed. And you help me out and you offer your number. I had Aaron a couple weeks after that. Yeah, I was very heavily pregnant. And yes, with Aaron, I smoked weed the entire pregnancy. He didn't have weed in his system, but um, I had gestational diabetes and I threw up. I mean, oh my gosh, I could easily throw up. Like, that was the worst. That's why I don't want to be pregnant again, really, because gosh, it was terrible. Like, I would pee on myself all the time. If I threw up, I'd pee on myself. So the whole pregnancy, I was just a mess. It was terrible. Oh, okay. So I kind of obsess about the fact that I have your number, but I'm doing nothing with it until I couldn't find weed again and felt like I had a good excuse. You're everything that I thought you would be, in a lot of ways better than what I thought. By the way, it's very important because we had already had sex at this point, so I want you to pay attention to some things, and I'll get into that later. Hold on. So you're in a lot of ways better than what I thought you would be, and you haven't let my imagination down yet. But I'm starting to wish that I was someone else. I've started wishing that I made a different choice here and there. And if I would have done this before that, perhaps then I'd be someone greater, more honorable, more stable, more impressive. And all of my time as an adult, I've never really considered anything deeply. I behaved in wherever the wind takes me kind of way, and I still do. I've never felt like I could meet or even hook up with someone like you. I haven't spent many years of my life being chaste and virtuous, and since being close with you, I've started to feel a little bit of shame about that. I feel myself inspired to change to be more of these things, but I can't take back anything that I've done before you. I am really sorry about who I was. I think about you long term these days, and I don't want to be someone that brings you dishonor. I don't want to be someone that is a source of embarrassment. I hold you in such high regard. All I want to do is behave in a manner that reflects that. And I still don't know what you think or where things are going. And that drives me nuts, by the way. I'm really trying to be patient and not bug you about that. When I read this back, I was like, there it is. There it is. That right there is the sign of emotional rape. But as I thought about all of this, I started thinking about certain mistakes, thinking about where I would be if I didn't make every mistake possible. We wouldn't have crossed paths, and you are a well of satisfaction. Okay. I don't know all of your criteria for what you think is perfect for you. I don't see you as a guy that I would be this intimate with just anyone. So I do know that I must fit something that you are looking for. Maybe I overthink it because I've had 3 years to wish on you where you were certainly not thinking about me. I doubt, though you never say, that you don't even remember me from FedEx. If I'm building this up, if I'm idealizing this to be more than what it can be, are you going to tell me? If my past is too much, if my instability and my kids are too much, are you going to let me go? I really can't go on this way much longer because getting to know you, though it's affecting me positively, it's still affecting me. I can't be falling in love with someone who doesn't want all this mess. I don't want another dead end relationship. You have me vulnerable and willing. It's scary. Um, so I I like you, and more often than not, when I think about you, I got that feeling like I'm being crazy, and I don't like that feeling. So it's important to note that when we met, like when we met at work, but when we like decided we were gonna hang out, he had told me, I told him like I don't wanna be smoke buddies. I was just trying to get some weed, right? He's the one that said let's hang out, let's smoke. And I was like I don't want to be smoke buddies. My exact words were I don't want to be smoke buddies because smoke buddies turn into fuck buddies. They turn into on the couch, on the floor, wherever it gets done type buddies. I'm not interested in that. And he said it wasn't going to be that. So we actually hung out for a while. He lived with his mom at the time. I lived with my cousin, right? So we hung out. There was no time where we were alone. It's important to, because there's things that he said later, right? He said that he thought that sex made me feel confident because when we had sex, we talked more. But the thing is, we had sex. Oh, shit. I gotta decline it. When when we had sex, I'm starting to whisper because my neighbors are right here. It's so embarrassing. It's like, after those people moved out, his mom moved out and my cousin moved out like literally the same week. So I felt more comfortable to speak because who wants to speak with like at the time I think his sister was like 5 and your mom, like he never really, I don't think he really put those things together. I don't think at first that what he was doing was intentional, but as time went on and like over the years, I think it did become more intentional. but it's because I had already behaved in the manner that is emotional rape. Like when I met him, I was very certain that I didn't want to have sex because um, I keep saying met him. I'd already met him, but like when we started hanging out, I didn't want to. I didn't want to do certain things because I just had Aaron. Aaron was 4 months old at the time when we started hanging out. Probably even younger than that. I think he was like 3 months old. Yeah, he was 3 months old. We started hanging out in February of 2018. Oh, I just had a baby. One. That man, had got me to give birth to this baby and then abandoned me and told me it was punishment. Like I had so many things that my dad oh, there were so many things going on. Like there were so many things. Like I was very certain that I did not want to do this because I knew that I was not like mentally prepared to be doing anything like that. Um, I had my dad take the car. Okay, like when he saw me at C1, I had a car. By the time we were hanging out, I didn't have a car. During the time we were hanging out, my dad took the tax money. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I had just been abandoned. I was just not in the emotional place to have sex. Um, the reason that I behaved the way I did with the man of the hour versus him, right? So like when I go to the man of the hour and I say I don't want to have sex, but then I like make a move on him, it's because I was doing the opposite of what happened here. Okay, what happened here was I said I didn't want to have sex. He made a move on me, and I was already in a traumatized state. I fawned. I ended up being in a sexual relationship with him for over a year. It was just him. I wasn't dealing with anyone else. I had other people that I could have dealt with. I feel like one of the things that, like, I think sometimes he thinks I trapped him because, I did eventually tell him I had an STD, but it took a long time. It took longer than the man of the hour. In fact, him and the man of the hour found out at the same time. Like I called the man of the hour, told the man of the hour, and I hung up and I called him. Right. But the reason that was is, I constantly try to tell him like, bro, you traumatized me. Like I was traumatized when I had sex with you, and then I had to go through all of the emotions and the guilt and the sorting all of those things out, the time by myself, the therapy. Like I had to go through all of those things before I was able to tell you because I was already in a state of survival, right? It's definitely it's definitely a regret, but it wasn't one that could be prevented. And honestly, it could have been prevented if he just never made a move on me because I never made a move on. I never made a move on him. I never did. I was cool just sitting. I liked him. I thought he was cool. Like I really liked him. So I would have been fine with just being friends. If I wanted to have sex with somebody, I had a crew. I had people that were very clear of what my status was. Like I didn't need you. Essentially, I did not need you. I had, I actually wrote it down. It's written down somewhere. I had a select group of men that I dealt with that knew my status, and you know, not all, nobody. There's not one person that I have that like is into all my kinks. There's no one. So I had like a little roster of people that okay, this person does this kink, this person does this kink, this person, and I just called the one I wanted. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really need that, and they were all like just sitting waiting for me to have my baby anyway. So if I really wanted to do that, I would have done that. You know what I'm saying? But then it was like he did the no intentions. He doesn't have any intentions. The intentions are unclear, and so for over a year, for 2 times a week, this dude would come to my house and we'd sleep together and all that shit. But as time went on, this was in August. It wasn't. I was mostly cool. I was mostly cool. In December is when I found out that he didn't want to be in a relationship. You know, because I started pressing him because it's like, okay, we had sex like maybe the week before my birthday in April. So we hung out for like 2 months and then we had sex. And from April to December, it was just having sex. And at some point, I started to press him, like, yo, what's going on here? And that's when I know that he doesn't want to have a relationship. He wants to work on whatever it is he needs to heal. You know, I can kind of mash him up. He's like a culmination of all the men that I've dealt with, uh, because he had a similar situation to that of the man of the hour, but he had a similar situation to that of my daughter's dad, because my daughter's dad and I were sleeping together for about the same amount of time before I knew he didn't want a relationship. So they go and they never tell you what their intentions are, you know. Um, I think if I had more stability or more safety in knowing what that was, I may have came clean a lot sooner. But there was always this, because I was already in a volatile state when we started dealing with each other, which is also another aspect of emotional rape. It's when two people kind of come together when somebody's like on their low point, right? So I was already on this low point. Um, I wasn't in a position to be rejected at that time. That's why I said I didn't want to have sex. 'Cause I wasn't at that that point of confidence. Okay, now when I'm fine, when I'm confident, when I'm feeling healthy mentally, I'm able to just blurt that shit out. It doesn't even matter. It's not really an issue. And again, I had a roster. I had people that wanted to deal with me regardless. So it was, I just didn't want to be rejected by you. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't. We just say we don't want to have sex, and that's fine. But once the sex happened, it changes. It changes everything because now I'm in the state of triggered. You know, I'm offering a lot of excuses. I know a lot of people want me to take accountability, and I have. That's the problem. The problem is, when you take accountability, what you do is you recognize the problem, you acknowledge the problem, you acknowledge what you can do to change that in the future, right? So me going through therapy, me, experiencing other things was how I had to come to the point of accountability and being honest with this person. But the problem, you know, the problem was that he never really saw that he did something wrong. It's always Ashley's fault. Everything, everywhere is Ashley's fault. All the time. If I said I don't want to have sex, you're next, he said things to me like, be an adult. You aren't an adult. Just be an adult. Being an adult is communication. Okay? When you decide that you have feelings for someone that are sexual, whoop, there's the notification. Um, when you decide that you have feelings for someone, whether it be intense feelings of like or just even sexual, you're supposed to have a conversation about that. Because he's literally the first person, right, who didn't press sex. Like, the man of the hour is the second. I found a lot of parallels in between them, but he like didn't press me about sex, so that automatically put me in a comfort zone, and I did not expect what happened. If you're an adult, you would communicate with someone and say, hey, I'm interested in sleeping with you, yada yada. That's when I would have been more forthcoming with you. But after the fact, I'm a ball of fucking anxiety. I feel crazy. You know what I'm saying? Um, and he's never really been able to like see how, like he's never been able to see past his own pain for the situation. Um, I would have never really had sex with him. to be honest with you. Just because I really liked him as a person, and I saw past his wiener, though it'd be good. um, so the importance of this today is ultimately just healing. My healing journey has to close out all of these like emotional rapes. A lot of men function on this level though. You know what I'm saying? They don't mean to, and then women are susceptible to it because we don't understand it and we're just trying to trust someone, and finally this dude, and then it turns into this fucking nightmare of, I'm sorry that this happened to him. You know, I've tried to protect him for a long time because I didn't want his status to be out there. I don't know who he deals with. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. He claims no one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. Nor do I care. It's not my business. I'm good at minding my own business. Um, but I think this was the last and the most significant piece of healing that I needed to do. Um, I can't say that I feel a lot better just yet. Because this one I feel like I put a lot more work into. I put more work into this than I did even with the man of the hour. Um, because I liked him so much. Like I had a little more history with him than that of the man of the hour. Like I've dealt with this person twice a week, and it wasn't just sex. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Like when he would come over, we'd eat, we'd talk, watch movies. Like I didn't really do that with the man of the hour. There's actually not a lot of people that I can say I've done that with. So it had like more of a what's the word? It had more of a intimate vibe, right? So, you know, I understand. I understand don't chase love. I understand these aspects of things. But I didn't understand, and I do understand. It's weird. I have an understanding of emotional rape. I have an understanding of the rules of how love works. But when you're in the throes of it, sometimes you're not realizing, like, you don't have, like, wow, this really was another instance of emotional rape. I didn't really fully see it. I was definitely still in like the denial part. I knew that something was off. There's certain things that he would do, and like when I would sit and I would try to discuss these things with him, um, it goes back to like some of the complaints that I had. You can go back to the emotional rape video. Some of the complaints I had about Natanya's dad, like I have those same complaints with him as well. And rather than seeing it as like, okay, this person is doing this intentionally, like I would be like, this is this is a lack of understanding, or this is um, making excuses for the person. This person doesn't understand what they're doing. Maybe if I give them more knowledge on what they're doing, they'll see it that way. But it comes to a point where it's like, no, this was definitely intentional, and it was intentional. That's all. That's it. You know, but you hope, especially because of the amount of time that I put into it, and how many times I've stated certain things to them. Like I would just hope that they would see the light. And there's another thing that they were doing too. Um, I know for a fact that this person definitely was listening to like rumors or anything about that, because he was just like, Ashley, just be honest with me. Just be honest. You got anything else going on? Just tell me. Um, and it brings me back to that whole thing with the man of the hour, because the man of the hour would do that, but he would do, there's this person I know that has this going on, and it's like, oh no, it's me. Instead of directly telling me what it is he heard, like, because I wasn't owning up to it or admitting it, then I must be lying instead of just saying, hey, I heard this. Is this true? Like, that shit. You know? So, yeah, 3131, a wonderful time of deep healing, inner transformation, and tuning into your inner wisdom. Like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly, you're blossoming and striving forward. Even though it might not feel like it, you're making fantastic progress in all areas of your life. That one's even, me and Erin did crafts this week. We did caterpillars and butterflies. So this is all I have to say. Um, I think that this person made more of a mark on my life than even the man of the hour. I still hold this person in high regard, even though they didn't really do that great to me. But the reason is, a lot of us just, forgive them, Father, for they not know what they do. You know, um, I don't want anything to happen to you, but something probably will. I apologize in advance.